You seem determined to prove my point. Good for you, he wrote on Twitter, adding, "R. Nuts." George Conway has pushed back on several assertions in Trump's tweet, including the notion that Trump decided not to give him a job. Aides have been pressing Trump to simply ignore George Conway, who in a phone interview on Tuesday said he viewed it as a badge of honor to be called a loser by someone he believes is unfit to hold the nation's highest office, and said the president's reaction only proves the point I made yesterday. Trump's attack on Conway was not unusual for the language he used or for the medium through which he employed it. Over the past 2 years, Trump has proved that trivial, personal fights are not a distraction from the work he is doing in office, but a core feature of the image he wants to project. He called Rex Tillerson, his former Secretary of State, dumb as a rock, and lazy as hell, after Tillerson criticized him in an interview in December for being undisciplined. He has taken the bait on almost every negative book written about him by a former staff member or a journalist, helping to elevate those tomes to the bestseller lists by declaring, via Twitter, that their authors are a mess, Cliff Sims, a lowlife, Omarosa Manigault Newman, or an idiot, Bob Woodward. Loading returning fire with fire is part of the president's modus operandi that aides around him have internalized. On Tuesday, Trump made clear that he would hit back at criticism, even if the critic was the spouse of one of his most loyal and longest-serving aides. Singling out Kellyanne Conway's husband for presidential critique put the focus back on one of Washington's most discussed marriages, even as Conway has tried to diffuse the coverage of her husband by not commenting about him on the record because, she has told friends, of how it would affect her children. Trump appeared to be provoked by a tweet from his campaign manager, Brad Parscale, who wrote, "We all know that at Real Donald Trump turned down Mr. Kellyanne Conway for a job he desperately wanted. He barely worked at the Justice Dep and was either fired, quit, didn't want the scrutiny. Now he hurts his wife because he is jealous of her success. US doesn't even know him." In fact, George Conway withdrew his name from consideration for a top job at the Justice Department, running its Civil Division, before he ever started. And he has known Trump for decades, since he lived in Manhattan at Trump World Tower Inn. Declined to sit on the condo board, a spot that his wife took in his stead. In more recent history, George Conway spent time with Trump on election night and at the wedding of the Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin, in June 2017. When Trump even commended him on turning down the job because it would have meant reporting to it. Week later, former Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Since Conway has become more vocal in his criticism of the president, Trump has referred to him as Mr. Kellyanne Conway, and claimed that in his diatribes against the president, he is simply trying to gain attention through the reflected glory of his wife. In an interview, George Conway dismissed the idea that he was coasting off interest in his wife, and said that in the course of a long marriage, it is hard to separate who is responsible for whose fortune and fame. Trump's White House. Donald Trump